discrepancy?
I
don't know if I can tell from here, but the right looks higher.
You're talking about where her knee is?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's probably related to the fibular.
Oh, okay.
Probably pushing the tibia up. Alright, so what I'm seeing here is I've got a solid, like 3/4 of an inch difference here between the right and the left. Exact, oh man, it's actually even worse down here. But very noticeable difference. We've got a little bit of a difference anterior to lateral or anterior to posterior here of the fibular base. That goes along with what we found when we were looking at her. So we're suspicious now from a positional standpoint that the fibula has gone superior, right? Along with superior, it should go anterior or lateral, right? Which would diminish the amount of mobility it would have going posterior medial. So if we take this and we test it, it's not terrible, but it's not great. But it's definitely not the same as this one. This one almost has that kind of clunk, 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 which is kind of typical of the fibular head. This one, definitely not moving. Okay. Now she mentions that she has discomfort posterior to the lateral malleolus, kind of deep in there. So what we did is we took her kind of away from plantar flexion. This is when she plantar flexes, she feels this back behind here. So we took her kind of away from that, got into this space, and all I'm doing here is I'm dropping onto the posterior talar tubercle, and that is where we're lighting her up, right? So what we're finding is that at this inferior tib fib joint, there's not a lot of pivoting that's going to happen here. That's very stiff, right? Versus this side, which you guys probably won't be able to see very well, but it moves pretty nicely. It's just this kind of tilting type of motion that occurs. So this is a very simple manipulation for us to do, right? There's two types that we can do. We can do a thrust or a percussion. I really like the percussion for these because it's quick and it's very effective. So we would put our thumb over the anterior portion of the fibular head, and then what we're going to do is we're just going to thump it posterior medial. Right? You okay with that? Mm-hmm. Good, because we're doing it anyway. Great. That gave us a nice little pop. And a nice little reflex reaction. Okay, so that's much better anterior to posterior. Relax this. Now, I want to try and bias her to get this to go inferior, right? So I'm going to put her in a little bit of plantar flexion to use the tension on the ATFL to help with that. And then I'm going to come over the dorsal surface, the superior surface of the fibular head. And then my thrust is just going to be straight down like that. There we go. That's better. Okay. Not quite. Flip on your belly for me. So for the little tilt that we're lacking here, we can do a little width manipulation for this. Okay, so basically I'm going to put my thumb on the posterior aspect of the fibular base. Okay, I'm going to block the tibia with my fingers, and then all I'm going to do is that there. Right. I don't have to worry too much about this because I'm not on the talar crural joint, so I'm not worried about whipping it into plantar flexion or anything like that. Just like so. Get that to twist for me. Flip back over on your back. Oh yes, that's much better. Okay, bend your knee. Here. Yeah, that looks more even to me anyway. Very good. good. Perfect. So that's easy stuff right there, right? And it matched up very nicely. So what we would hope to see now is that she's not going to get any impingement of that posterior talar tubercle on the fibula, right? Because now it's not pivoted backward. It's going to be able to go forward and get out of the way. So pretty simple. Now, what would I do for this patient? Well, I want to be able to maintain this motion. Nothing. Yeah, it looked a little different from where I was sitting. So I would have her do standing axial rotation as a mobility maintenance. Right. I would also want her doing something in weight-bearing plantar flexion, probably like toe walking. Okay. And then we're going to have her probably doing some balance activities, which would probably include one of three things. So single leg stance, eyes open, looking straight ahead, eyes closed, straight ahead. There we go. Maybe I should use my left leg, which is going to be more stable. And then turning the head. Okay, so the idea here is the three mechanisms for balance: vision, sensory input from the floor, somatosensory input from the pressure on the floor, and then the vestibular apparatus. Right, so we're going to stir them all up. So right here we have all three functioning for us. Take away the eyes, and then we take away the vestibular apparatus by spinning the head, and it's going to blur your vision as well, right? So now all we have left is a somatosensation coming from the floor. Okay? So that's what I would have her do. 3 rounds, 30 seconds apiece. So 30 seconds, eyes open, 30 seconds, eyes closed, 30 seconds, head turning, and then do 3 rounds of that. Yeah, that's essentially where I would run with this, because there's not a whole lot of issues here, you know.